Alright, doing a short block in a BR700 here. I'll take off the recoil starter, take off the big shroud, take off the air filter cover. So there's 3 screws that hold on the recoil, 4 screws that hold on this big one. There's one here, bottom, and then top there. And then the 2 screws for the air filter cover. You can remove the air filter next. This, put that to the side, and take this big cover off. Is remove the terminal wires, remove the spark plug boot, and then we're going to take this big plastic shroud off. Okay, 2 wires come off, and then remove your spark plug boot. Always twist and pull, never just pull straight off, because that's how you rip them off. And then a screw up here, and then a screw down here for the bottom shroud. Okay, now we'll take that big piece off that you just unscrewed. Yep. And disconnect that piece right there. Yep. Like so. It's kind of like lodged in there. There you go. Set that to the side. Okay, now take your coil off, and it's gonna have this little piece is gonna be one piece, but remember there's 2 plastic spacers behind it. So, and I just set those to the side so you don't lose them. Okay, go ahead and you can remove the spark plug there, and then we will take off the carburetor, air filter housing, fuel tank assembly, and set that to the side. So we're going to take this control off to make it to where we can take the fuel tank and the carburetor assembly, and it'll all be one, and we can set that to the side so we're not fighting that, and it's much easier. So we'll remove these 2 screws, and then this control will come off of here. Okay, so there's two screws on the bottom there, and we're going to take those 2 out. And as you can see, the control wires go to this fuel tank. Instead of disconnecting the fuel line, disconnecting everything, basically you'll take this whole assembly off, and it'll all go off together and all go on together, so you don't have a bunch of pieces everywhere. So just an easier way of doing things. And so now we're going to remove these 2 screws here, and we'll show you how the whole thing comes off by itself. Okay, so we're taking this impulse line off, and now that whole assembly, set it to the side wherever you want. And so that's all one piece, so you don't have to worry about like where all these pieces go. It'll all be together. We're gonna split the casing now. We can leave all this on for now. We'll mess with that later. So we're going to take the back plate off. So flip this thing around, and there's 4 screws that hold this thing on. So there's one here, and then one behind the strap here, and one behind this strap right here. You can leave those in. So we'll leave those screws in there, and then we'll put that to the side, and now we're going to take off all 100 of these screws, or however many there are. So the whole surrounding, we're going to take all those screws out. Okay, we got all the screws out. You got the 2 in the pocket right here? Yep. And we're just going to kind of pry this casing apart here, and then we will take off the impeller fan. Now we're going to put this piston stop in here. So we're going to flip it over. We'll throw this piston stop in here. And this is going to hold the engine from being able to turn over. The bearings are bad. So once we put this in, you want to screw this on all the way, because if not, you'll put a hole through the piston, which it's already messed up anyways. And if you look right here, it'll tell you which direction to take it off as well. So we'll put this thing in the headlock, and it's kind of tough to take it apart, but we'll watch Jacob struggle for a little bit and see. Alright, now that he muscled off the impeller here, now we're going to take off these 4 screws, and then our whole engine will come off. Alright, so now we're going to just transfer everything over to our new engine. So we'll pull our new engine out here, and we're going to transfer this muffler, the impulse line, the intake, the flywheel, and the piston stop to tighten it back up. Okay, so yeah, we'll remove those 3 screws, transfer the muffler over. And it comes with a new carburetor gasket and muffler gasket, so we'll be replacing those. Alright, we got the muffler transferred. Now we're going to transfer over this intake, and it's oval shaped, as you can see. So look at the inside of that. I mean, as long as you have it the same, but if you look at the inside of that intake, it'll show the shape of it, how it goes on. Okay, and then we'll transfer over this impulse line over to that one, and then we're going to knock off that flywheel next. Okay, so we'll just loosen that up just a little bit, and then there you go, that's it. Okay, now take the socket off of that, and then pick this up by the flywheel and hammer with a real hammer, not a rubber hammer. Okay, yep, perfect. Now we'll unthread that and transfer all our flywheel over to that one and put the nut back on, and then we can rotate the engine to put in our piston stop. Okay, so now that we got everything transferred over to this is now going back to Stihl, and then we're going to put our engine into the housing here. And most of the screws that go into this are going to be tapped in, so just keep that in mind when you're putting the new engine on, that it's going to require some of these screws to be tapped in, so just keep that in mind. Okay, so just remember it says off and then turns the opposite direction for on, obviously. So we'll put our fan back on here, we'll get that tightened up, and then we'll put our black tube and then the cover on. We've got our black tube in its little slot in the arm there. Now we're going to put this big cover on, and then we're going to put in all 200 of these screws. We're going to put this back plate on now, so we're just going to align these buffers here with the slots, and then we'll put our screws into those buffers. Alright, back plate is on, we got it stood up. Now we'll take out this piston stop here, don't need that anymore. And then we'll put that fuel tank on, the air filter housing, carburetor assembly, and then the control. So yeah, so pop your cable into this slot right here. Pop that in there. Yep. And into that one, yep. Yeah, sometimes a little tricky. Okay, and this fuel line will go in that other one, yep. And then we'll plug her up to the impulse line and the intake anchor. Okay, so we got our lines all connected, cables connected. Now we're just going to run these screws into the intake here. Alright, next, this process doesn't really matter too much on what order you do, but we're going to go ahead and put the coil on here, and these screws are tapped in as well, so we'll get those tapped in. Okay, so we're just going to tap these in, and we're just going to get them started here, and then we will just make sure when you're screwing them in that you keep the bolts straight up and down, because if it's at an angle it will damage it. So yep. Okay, now we're going to we have a steel feeler gauge here, so we're just going to rotate it to where the magnets are in front of this coil here, and the magnets are going to pull the coil in to give it its gap. So now we'll tighten them the rest of the way. Okay, now we will slide our feeler gauge out, and now it's perfectly gapped. Now we'll put our big cover on. You can just leave it down like this, and we'll put the big white shroud that goes over. Okay, so this shroud is going to go on the inside like this. It always confuses people, and then this cable is going to go in through here. So we will put this on here first, and then we will route our wire harness, and then we'll put the screws in. Okay, so now we're just going to connect these wires first. Do this first. And they're two different size terminals, so they can only go one way. Okay, now we'll route this wire to there, and then under those two little tabs. You can pick that plastic up a little bit. Tuck them under there. Yep. Okay, yep, just like that. Okay, perfect. Now we're going to put those two screws in, and this screw down here is tapped. This one up here is not. Okay, so this is what yours should look like. Your whole assembly should look like. we're gonna pop this wire loom into the slot there. I'll show you that in a second. We're gonna go ahead and put our spark plug in and put our boot on there. So we'll lay this over on its stomach here like this, and then we'll take this wire loom here, and if you look down in there, it just goes in this little slot here. So we'll just push it down in this slot like so. Not sure if you can see that, but and then we'll go ahead and put the big orange shroud over it. Okay, so remember this is 4 screws, two on the top, 2 on the bottom. And then it goes over the spark plug boot, and just like that, slides right in. So it's better to put this big cover on when it's laid down, because these anchors get in the way. Yep. Okay, so we'll go ahead and throw this air filter on and the air filter cover. And then we will connect the control back to the nozzle, and then we'll fire it up. Okay, we're gonna throw the recoil starter on first, and then we'll throw the control on. So 3 screws for this. Okay, we'll just throw in these 2 small screws right here. We've got the control put on the nozzle. We'll gas her up and fire her up next. So before we put gas in and fire up, we're gonna go ahead and replace these fuel filters just to be on the safe side, so it has a good fresh fuel filter with a good fresh short block. Okay, we got the new fuel filters put in, and now we will throw some gas in it and fire it up. I'm gonna go 2. All right, we're gonna fire this thing up. Comment below how many pulls you think it'll take to start this thing. So give her I'm gonna say 2. Okay, half choke. Good. Alright, that's all she wrote. BR700 short block. Runs like a champ now. We'll send that short block back for warranty, and this customer's good to go.